Welcome back to Ryan Jacobson Weather. Hope your Friday's off to a great start. Let's hop into the forecast for today. And as you can see, we still have very active weather right now across the U.S. We still have this frontal boundary basically stalled out over the central U.S., and that has brought severe weather over the last couple of days. And unfortunately, we're expecting a major severe weather outbreak again today, as we do now have a moderate risk for severe weather going into this afternoon and evening. Our major severe weather threat is going to be in the south here across portions of Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas, maybe even potentially going into northwestern Louisiana as well. But you can just see there's a lot of precipitation right now out across the U.S., and this is going to stay like this for the next 24 to 48 hours before this front eventually gets pushed off and gets going again, you could say. Gets pushed off into the ocean, and more dry, quiet weather is expected, hopefully going early next week. So let's hop right into the forecast for today. So as you can see, we do have a moderate risk for severe weather. This includes portions of Missouri going basically all the way through right central Arkansas, going into northeastern Texas here. We also do have that enhanced risk spanning all the way up into southern Illinois, back more towards central Texas. And then we have that marginal risk consisting of up into Ohio and then all the way going to Mexico. So again, large area under the gun today for severe weather. It's a lot of the same weather, a lot of the same areas that have been experiencing severe weather over the last couple of days, as we saw a high risk over basically these exact same areas just a mere 48 hours ago. Unfortunately, there is a 15% hash risk for tornadoes today. Some of the bigger populations in this area is Little Rock, Arkansas, Tyler, Texas, Fort Smith, Arkansas, Longview, Texas, in North Little Rock, Arkansas. I do think there's going to be a major tornado outbreak today. I think there's going to be some very strong and violent tornadoes. Unfortunately, I'll show you the setup here in a second, but just very, very primed, you could say, for seeing some strong tornadoes like we saw going back to Wednesday here. You can see that there's not going to be much of a damaging wind risk with these thunderstorms, but there will be some hatched and some severe hail as well. There's a 30% hatched risk for severe hail, so there could be some hail greater than 2 to maybe up to even 3 inches in diameter. I want to read real quick what the Storm Prediction Center is saying for today. Let me go back here. Give me a second. It says, so this is the moderate risk for today. It says, several clusters of severe storms are expected from central Texas across the Arklatex and into the lower Ohio Valley through tonight. The greatest threat for tornadoes, large hail, and damaging winds will be from the Arklatex across western Arkansas into southeast Missouri, including potential for strong to potentially intense tornadoes. And the SPC, the Storm Prediction Center, usually doesn't use that wording too often. When they're saying the potential for potentially intense tornadoes, that means EF3 plus. And I think that's definitely on the table, as we saw multiple EF3 plus tornadoes on Wednesday. It's going to be a very similar environment, unfortunately, and I would not be surprised if we see kind of a major tornado outbreak going again this afternoon and evening. Let me show you that enhanced risk for tomorrow. Again, basically a lot of the exact same areas. At that front is going to basically be stalled out till around tomorrow evening. It's finally going to get going and get kicked off the coast here. But you can see we still are expecting a 10% hatched risk for tornadoes tomorrow. I do not think the probability of seeing as many tornadoes is as likely tomorrow. I think there will still be a couple, but I'm not expecting a major tornado outbreak tomorrow. There is going to be that wind risk tomorrow, though. Unlike today, tomorrow is expecting a major wind risk with those thunderstorms. 30% hatched risk for severe winds. And then we also do have a 30% hatched risk for severe hail as well. And then this is now going into Sunday here. And you can see we do have that slight risk for severe weather. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a 5% tornado chance, 5% tornado risk here on Sunday. This is still the probabilistic forecast, as this is the day 3 outlook. But I would say, obviously, maybe a spin tornado or two and some damaging winds are possible on Sunday. But I really think that's just going to be the tail end of the severe weather threat. So this is the current setup right now. And as you can see, I'll push this into this afternoon here. This is going into the early afternoon here. This is around noontime. 3, 4, 5, 6 o'clock here. You can see these storms begin to fire up. And a lot of these are going to be firing off, going into the evening hours as well. We can see a lot of isolated and discrete supercells. And this is kind of that concerning look. You can see a lot of these storms are beating. You can see the HRRR putting down a lot of, you could say, hooks. And that's what you don't want to see, especially in modeling. Whenever, a model is showing a bunch of hooks on these different supercells, that usually is a pretty concerning look. So this looks just like a classic setup. Looks very similar to Sunday here. This is, again, these are going to stall out here. Again, this is going to bring precipitation to a lot of these same areas, as there has been multiple flood warnings already. I would expect many more to be issued today, as just widespread rain has just been occurring here really the last 48, and it'll be over, the next 72 hours, or, overall it'll be around 3 to 4 days where they just see heavy rain. So a lot of these areas will be picking up maybe even potentially over 10 inches of rain when this storm is all said and done. This is going to the overnight hours, and this is going to tomorrow. We still got that risk here for, portions of Arkansas going into tomorrow. Again, I don't think it's as grave a risk, but you cannot rule out a couple of tornadoes tomorrow as well. So if you're anywhere in Arkansas, you got to be weather aware. We're really under the gun for severe weather. Let me play this back for you one more time here. So yeah, getting right. So this is going right into around, this is around 6 to 7 o'clock here. So I would say really that threat is going to start around 5, and it's going to continue probably through around midnight, I would say, that greatest tornado threat. But right when these storms fire off here, these are going to be mostly discrete here, and this is where we could definitely see an elevated tornado risk. So this is the significant tornado parameter values. I like to say this is tornado juice. The higher the SIGTOR, the better potential of seeing a strong tornado. Right now, the totals are pretty low. We're seeing values only right now of around a 1 or 2. That's going to change, though. Going back into this afternoon here, you can see these values start to skyrocket going to the early afternoon. And by late afternoon here, we're unfortunately going to be seeing values approaching a 7. And again, you do not see these values too often. And these storms are going to be right in these values. It's a different setup than yesterday. Yesterday, luckily, a lot of the storms did not fire up, on that frontal boundary. They kind of fired up a little bit north to it. So we actually did not see really much severe weather yesterday, which is obviously great news. But today, the storms are definitely going to have the potential to really interact with the SIGTOR in these conditions, these favorable conditions for a decent amount of time. And you can see this is going into the afternoon here, and you can see these SIGTOR values are still just going to be elevated here, 8.8. Like you don't see these values this high usually that often. This is going into the overnight hours. It dies off, and then going to tomorrow, kind of resparks up there for a little bit, but not obviously as much as what we're going to be seeing today. I think really a high risk definitely could be issued with this type of setup. I don't think there will be one issued, but again, we have SIGTOR values this high, and these storms are going to be right in these conditions, these discrete supercells. It's usually never a good sign. So again, just be weather aware if you're in these areas tonight, as I unfortunately do think that we're going to see multiple tornadoes out of this type of setup. I thank you guys all for stopping by. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Can you just keep checking back for daily updates on the weather ahead? I'll have a new update tomorrow morning talking about that enhanced risk for tomorrow, and we'll go into more detail on that as well. And once the severe weather threat kind of pushes out, I think we're going to be done for severe weather for a little bit across the U.S., as I think actually a little bit of a major cool down is going to be expected going into early next week. As like I said in the post yesterday, the video yesterday, I think there's even some snow showers expected here across portions of the Midwest going to the Northeast this upcoming week. So again, a little bit of a cool down expected over the U.S. this upcoming week, but at least that severe weather threat should be over once these storms kind of kick off the coast here on Sunday. So I thank you guys all for stopping by, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day.